Hi, I'm Rob Spees. Welcome to the shop here at the J.D. Lohr School of Woodworking. I wanted to show you this jig that we have featured in the April-May 2018 issue of Woodcraft magazine. We use this jig primarily for mortising with a plunge router, but it also solves a lot of other simple problems in the shop. This is a big favorite of our students here at the school, so we wanted to go through all the little bells and whistles that make this jig a great helper in the shop. At its simplest level, this jig takes the place of bench dogs on a traditional workbench. It's specifically designed for handheld routing tasks where clamps often get in the way. By securing the board between a block and a wedge, I can quickly route a series of slots without having to take clamps on and off. We also use the jig as a means to safely route small work in batches. This jig is great for these basic tasks, but it really pays off in time savings when we're routing mortises. I teach many different ways to cut mortises, and they all have their place. Cutting mortises by hand or with the drill press works, but often leads to disappointing results, and it takes a whole lot longer than it should. A mortising machine works great, but you don't find those in every home shop. A plunge router outfitted with an edge guide is the most practical way to cut mortises, and that's the way we teach our students here at the school. Now, the mortising attachment to this jig was born out of the necessity to have stops at the start and the finish of each mortise. If I would try to cut all 8 mortises in this table by eyeballing the lines, the chances of me having them all spot on are pretty slim. So what we use is this guy. The mortising attachment has 2 primary stops with hinged extensions. The elongated slot allows for adjustability for different mortise lengths. The stops are attached to a bar with carriage bolts and wing nuts. The thickness of this bar is suited for a 1 3/4 inch leg, though you can shim under the bar if you have thicker legs, or shim under the legs if they're thinner. The whole stop carriage will be attached to the fence in different places depending on the length of your leg. In this case, I'm setting up for a 29-inch hall table leg to be positioned between the wedge and the block. With the wedge loosely secured, I align the center point of the jig roughly to the position where the top of the 2 legs will meet, then screw it to the fence. That allows me to cut 2 mortises of equal spacing using these doors right here. So once I've got it in position there, I'm going to take my wedge, make sure you have a cool lightning bolt on it, and set that in place just lightly. Then I'm going to put the stop block over here and clamp this down to my workbench. Now, by putting a little bit more pressure on the wedge, that sets these legs in place so they can't shift forward or backward. To set the stops of the mortise, I put my router in place and attach my edge guide and set that up so I'm tracking right through my mortise layout lines. Now to set my start point, I'll back up to my line and position the stop carriage right up against my router base and tighten the wing nuts. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the far mortise on this side. Move to my line, slide this against, lock down the wing nuts. Now to arrange it so my stops are in the appropriate place at the tops of my mortises, what I've got to do is move it to my line and close this door. Now what I've already got on this one is a 1/4 inch spacer. Because these distances are fixed right here, I need a series of spacers to cut all types of mortises. So I have a bunch of them here in 1/4 inch increments, in a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, and 3/4 of an inch. And they're going to help me dial in that dimension that I need. So right now, with a 1/4 inch spacer, that brings me right to the end of my layout line here. And on the same token, this one will become the start point for my second mortise. All right, now we're all set to go. Now, with mortising with the router, if you haven't done that before, that's what our 3 stops are for here on the depth stop. I can't plunge my full 7/8 inch depth with one plunge, or else I'm going to burn up my router bit. It's not going to go well. So I'm going to go, we generally go about 3/8 at a time, plunging down a little by little. So the nice thing here is now that I did all my layout on these 2 mortises, all I've got to do is remove the wedge, flip this leg over here, and flip this leg over here. Now because of the spacing of my block and my wedge, everything's going to go exactly in the same spot. I don't need to lay out all of my mortises. A simple chalk squiggle is going to take the position of that layout, and my stops are going to put everything in the right spot. All in all, this is a pretty simple build, and it really pays off in how much you can get accomplished in a day's work. As you can see, mortising is just one of the things this guy can do. Thanks for watching.